welcome to Philly Psych Ward. Think of me as a doctor or a patient, whichever you prefer.
I'm getting tired of the Jalen Hurts disrespect. Yes, he's not going to put up all the big-time numbers, and he's not going to come out and throw for 4,030 passing touchdowns every year. But you know what he does? He wins football games, and he's selfless, and he knows what it takes to win. He just wants a ring, and he's got one. And I think he has an opportunity in Philadelphia to get more. Because if you look at the numbers, all he's done since he's become the starter is win 63 games, win 2 conference championships. He's gone to 2 Super Bowls. He's won one of them. He's got a Super Bowl MVP. He's got 173 total touchdowns in the regular season. And in the playoffs, when it matters most, what has he done? 21 total touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He knows what it takes to win games. And I'm getting tired of the argument of people saying, oh, well, yeah, he's got a great roster around him. I don't know why people fault quarterbacks for that. It's not his job to build the roster. It's his job to go win with the roster that you're given. Right. He's gone to the playoffs every single year that he's been a starter, and he's been to 2 Super Bowls already. To me, that's maximizing the roster that you had. So he gets a lot of unnecessary hate for a guy that's never in the media, that's a great leader on and off the field, that keeps his mouth shut and his head down and goes out and wins football games. People like to talk a lot of shit about him.
What's going on? This is Solo M, live and direct, straight out the streets of Philadelphia. Today, we want to talk about Jalen Hurts, and we want to talk about a couple things today. You know, there's a lot of people out there disrespecting Jalen Hurts. You know, one of these podcasts is Pick a Side Podcast, and there's a lot of people on there disrespecting Jalen Hurts, just talking nonsense. At the end of the day, right, I just want a fair assessment, right? And I want your opinions based off of facts. You understand what I'm saying? I believe that if you're going to be a person giving your opinion, number one, you have to know what you're talking about. Because if you don't know what you're talking about, your opinion is irrelevant. And number two, your opinion should be based off of facts. That's how I was raised. Because if you're just giving your opinion on something and it's not rooted and based off of anything, then it's irrelevant. But if you're giving your opinion and it's based off of actual facts, that's different. That's a valid opinion. But if your opinion is not based off facts, you're just saying anything. That's just how I work. So today I want to discuss Pick a Side Podcast. I want to tear them apart, honestly. You know, and I want to play a couple clips from them, and I want to discuss it. All right, the first one I'm going to discuss is clip number 1.
You can maybe make the argument for Hurts and say, well, he's just playing to his supporting cast. He's not trying to do too much because he does have a great team. But I think he can't do it. Okay. And I think that he's an overrated quarterback. I think that he's incapable, unable to elevate a situation. And it's been that way for years now. And the winning doesn't justify it because they won in spite of him. He might have had a great Super Bowl performance. The defense got them a 20-point lead before you could even blink. But Jalen Hurts is not better than any of the top 5 quarterbacks. He's not better than Drake May. Give me Caleb Williams. Give me Trevor Lawrence. Give me Jaden Daniels. Give me Jordan Love. Give me Dak Prescott. Kellen Moore ran a better offense with Dak Prescott than he did with Jalen Hurts. What was the difference? The difference was that the Eagles had a historically elite defense and the Cowboys didn't. That was the difference. But Kellen Moore got more out of Dak than he did with Hurts, and Hurts was in a better situation. I don't care about the wins. Dak clears Jalen Hurts. He's way better than him.
All right, number 1, I was always told by an elder of mine, you have winners in the world and you have losers. Let me repeat that. You have winners in the world and you have losers. This guy from Pick a Side Podcast is clearly a loser. You want to know how he's a loser? Because when he come out of his mouth that he doesn't care about wins, that right there automatically put him in the category of a loser. Simple as that. And most of the people who discuss Jalen Hurts are losers. They don't like Super Bowls. They don't like wins. They like stats over wins. They like MVP trophies in the regular season more than MVP trophies in the Super Bowl. So, okay, he says that wins is not, they don't mean anything. So the first thing he said was Kellen Moore got more out of Dak Prescott than he did Jalen Hurts. Kellen Moore only Super Bowl is with Jalen Hurts when he was the quarterback. When he was with Dak Prescott, no Super Bowls, no playoff victories. I think maybe one. So I want to bring up this right here, right? These are all of the all pros that played with Dak Prescott. CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Zeke Elliott, Zach Morton, Tyron Smith, Travis Frederick, right? You got George Pickens, Jake Ferguson, Dez Bryant, Jason Witten, DeMarcus Murray, right now. All of these was Pro Bowlers and All Pros with Dak Prescott. Yet he only won one playoff game for all of these individuals on his roster. So, is it true that Kellen Moore got more out of Dak Prescott than he did Jalen Hurts? Because this 1 year with Jalen Hurts, he went to the Super Bowl. His 1 year with Jalen Hurts, he had one of the greatest NFL teams of all time. 1 year with Jalen Hurts, went to the Super Bowl. But guess what? Jalen Hurts got to the Super Bowl before Kellen Moore got there. Let me repeat that. Jalen Hurts got to the Super Bowl before Jalen Hurts got there. So Kellen Moore didn't improve Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts improved Kellen Moore. Before Jalen Hurts got to the NFL, he was the champion. He won college championships. He was runner up for the Heisman Trophy. He was the Offensive Player of the Year before he got to the NFL. He was a way more successful player than Dak Prescott before he even got to the NFL. His pedigree. And he was successful at two colleges, at Alabama and Oklahoma. So he's an definitively greater quarterback than Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott was a fourth-round draft pick. Fourth-round draft pick. And his best year in the NFL is maybe his first year when he won 13-3 and lost in the playoff miserably. So I'm confused about what do he mean. See, I'm not a person who just give an opinion without proof. Without what is based off something. My opinion is based off of knowledge. And I'm gonna rip this pick aside podcast apart tonight. All of the nonsense and the ignorance that they just spread. So let's go to another clip. Because I'm not
football field stuff. But the reality is, when you've been underperforming, this is what happens. You do get questioned. Articles like this come out. People question if you can, even though you did win the Super Bowl, if you could be that guy, because most of the arguments for Jalen Hurts are around team success. When you're looking individually at the passing game, that's the one area you're pointing at over the years saying, no, that's the weakness of the Eagles. To be fair, they've had a dominant run game, a dominant offensive line, and dominant defense, so I'm not expecting it to be best in the league good. But this has been a bottom 10 unit for multiple seasons, and it's been, with different coordinators and different styles, but it was mostly centered around what Jalen Hurts liked to do. I remember when Kellen Moore came in, a big talking point that year was we should see more motion than we did the year prior with Brian Johnson. We should see more innovation. But comes to find out that's just Jalen Hurts' preference. He doesn't really want motion. And there's been quarterbacks that do that in the past. Aaron Rodgers famously doesn't really like motion at the line of scrimmage.
All right, so let's go here. Okay, because he said that Jalen Hurts, he doesn't like motion. But did you know when Kellen Moore got to the Eagles, he implemented 289 motion plays with the Eagles offense, and they went from 29th last year in 23, in 24, to 23 to 11th when Kellen Moore got there. Now he implemented 289 motion offense, and Jalen Hurts was at the helm. So to say that he don't like it, It's just wrong. It's completely wrong. And number two, he says that the argument around Jalen Hurts is that it's his team success. Okay, before Jalen Hurts came to the Eagles was 4-12. His first year with the Eagles, he was 4-12. Wentz was like he had a completely losing record. He was like maybe 2-8 or something like that, right? The first year Hurts was starting, they won 8 games. They was 8-7. His first year, he didn't have no Pro Bowlers, no All Pros. First year, he made the playoffs, so he improved the Eagles. His second year, he made the Super Bowl and went 14-1. Second year, he made the Super Bowl, won 14-1, and outplayed Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Second year, this is what he did. This is his resume. This is not something I'm making up. This is actual facts. His third year with the Eagles. Now, another argument for the Eagles, for the Hurts, is that against them is that he played with all pros. Who? AJ Brown wasn't an all pro before he got to the Eagles. He was the receiver who got maybe 1,100 yards. He came to the Eagles, he got 1,500 yards with the Eagles his first year. And Devontae Smith got 1,100 yards. So Hurts is one of the only quarterbacks in the league that had 2,000-yard receivers and 1,000-yard running back. Something that he produced. He produced. The next year, 2023, Jalen Hurts had another 1,400 yards with AJ Brown and another 1,000 yards with Devontae Smith. So I'm confused about this team, that the team is good, but he's not good. He's the quarterback. He elevates the team. The team don't elevate him. When he went to Alabama, he won there. When he went to Oklahoma, he won there. Oklahoma wasn't good before Jalen Hurts got there. Nobody even knew who CeeDee Lamb was before Jalen Hurts got to Oklahoma. He went there all of a sudden. CeeDee Lamb was the number one draft pick because of Jalen Hurts. Simple. Came to the Eagles, he elevated the Eagles. Kellen Moore came to the Eagles, he won Kellen Moore's Super Bowl. It got him a coaching job. What is Kellen Moore doing now with New Orleans? Is he winning? Is he making the playoffs? No. He's doing the same thing he did when he was with the Cowboys. All right, so I don't know what happened just now, but at the end of the day, let's play another clip. I'm sorry about that. Let's play another clip.
That you were able to reach a high level and you have like a trophy that shows that you were the very best. But that 2024 Eagles team, and it's not to diminish Hurts in any way, it's just to speak honestly about what that team was. It's one of the best teams in NFL history.
I love it.
It is an elite level defense that was number one in the regular season and playoffs. And in the playoffs, they actually had a better defensive EPA per play than the Seattle Seahawks, who are known as a historic defense, Legion of Boom, historic rushing attack, a historic offensive line that completely outmatched opposing defensive lines. Not only did they create massive gaping holes for Saquon Barkley, but Jalen Hurts had all day to throw. And while the offensive line might have regressed a little bit last season, Jalen Hurts still had a lot of time to throw. Against the Niners in the playoffs, he had almost 4 seconds time to throw. And that is a game that he didn't play well in, despite having all the time in the world to read out the field and to get the ball out of his hands. But that 2024 Eagles team,
He was one of the greatest teams of all time. It really was. We had one of the best running games of all time. But what happened in the Super Bowl when that running game was shut down? What happened? What happened in the Super Bowl when Jalen when Saquon Barkley was shut down? Jalen Hurts took over and put up 40 points on the Kansas City Chiefs. So for them to diminish Jalen Hurts like he was just along for the ride, no, he put up points. He put up Super Bowl records. He ran for 70 yards in two Super Bowls. In each Super Bowl, he ran for 70 yards. His rating, passer rating in the Super Bowl is over 100, 110. He threw for 300 and something yards every Super Bowl that he was in. So he wasn't carried. He carried the team. If we want to keep it real, he carried the team. So let's go to another thing that he said because they're just making all types of idiotic remarks on this podcast. They don't deal with facts on this podcast. They don't. They just say anything. That's just what they're doing. They just say anything on this podcast. And that's what they want to do. Fine, but my podcast that I deal with facts. I don't deal with this make believe in opinions that's based off of nothing. The facts that I give you and the opinions that I give you is based off of knowledge. Let's go to the next one.
To the T. And quarterbacks don't have the luxury to play poorly in the first and second round and still advance to the conference championship. They don't. And Hurts played poorly against the Packers. He played poorly against the Rams, in which he went 3 and out. And who saved the day? Jalen Carter on the defensive side of the ball. There's a lot of variables in play when it comes to winning. When we talk about sole production, Jalen Hurts over the last 2 seasons, he has been clearly outside of the top 10. And we have to stop acting like quarterbacks play the game on an even playing field, because you're not about to convince me that Cam Ward has similar situation to Jalen Hurts, and that's why you're not about to convince me that. You're not about to convince me that these quarterbacks that have shown they can do more with less, like Jaden Daniels in Washington last season, had a similar supporting cast to Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. Yeah. Jaden Daniels' supporting cast was much worse, but he got more out of it because he's a better overall player.
All right, so he said that Jalen Hurts is a better overall player than Jaden Daniels is a better overall player than Jalen Hurts. Even though he hasn't done nothing in the NFL, he had one good year. Every year Jalen Hurts was in the NFL, he had a good year. But let's go to this. All right. He said Jalen Hurts had a poor game against the Packers, right? Poor game against the Packers. This is Jordan Love numbers against the Eagles in that wild card game, right? He was 10 for 22. No. He was 20 or 32, right? 62 completions, 212 yards, 0 TDs, and 3 interceptions. His passer rating was 45. Would you consider that a bad game? Because this guy, Joel, whatever his name is, he just lies. He said Jalen Hurts played poorly against the Packers. But this is his quarterback, Jordan Love, status against the Eagles. This is stats against the Eagles. So what did Jalen Hurts put up against them? Let's see what Jalen Hurts put up. Let me see. All right, let me see what he put up against him. All right, here's Jalen Hurts' stats against the Packers in 2024. Right, he was 13 and 21 for 61 passing, 61 percentage, 131 yards, 2 TDs, no interceptions, 6 rushing attempts for 36 yards, passing rating at 114. So if you got 2 quarterbacks, one quarterback threw for 2 touchdowns, passing rating at 112, right? His passing rate is over 100, 2 TDs, no interceptions, and he ran for 36 yards. So I'm trying to figure out who had the better game. You got 2 teams, 2 quarterbacks going head to head. Who had the better game? Do you consider this to be poor? 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 111 passer rating. Is that a poor game for a playoff game? A playoff victory when you won 22 to I think the 16? Because I'm just trying to figure it out. Maybe I don't know what playing poor is. So if Jalen Hurts played poor and won the game, no interceptions, 2 touchdowns, and his passing rating is 111. I'm confused. Why is that? How was that playing poor? Can somebody explain to me? Maybe I'm lost. Maybe I'm lost. Okay. Now I want to go to the same clip because I want to go point by point that he's making and destroy them
that
all.
you were able to reach a high level and you have like a trophy that shows that you were the very best. But that 2024 Eagles team, and it's not to diminish Hurts in any way, it's just to speak honestly about what that team was. It's one of the best teams in NFL history.
Love it.
It is an elite level defense that was number one in the regular season and playoffs. And in the playoffs, they actually had a better defensive EPA per play than the Seattle Seahawks, who are known as a historic defense, Legion of Boom, historic rushing attack, a historic offensive line that completely outmatched opposing defensive lines. Not only did they create massive gaping holes for Saquon Barkley, but Jalen Hurts had all day to throw. And while the offensive line might have regressed a little bit last season, Jalen Hurts still had a lot of time to throw. Against the Niners in the playoffs, he had almost 4 seconds time to throw. And that is a game that he didn't play well in, despite having all the time in the world to read out the field and to get the ball out of his hands. But that 2024 Eagles team.
All right, so let's go to the Niners team, right? When Jalen Hurts played the Niners in last year in the playoffs, right? If you go on YouTube and look at the highlights, the Eagles took a 20 to 16 lead in the fourth quarter. Jalen Hurts took a 20 to 16 lead in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, AJ Brown dropped 3 passes. Devontae Brown dropped 1 pass. Saquon Barkley dropped 1 pass. And the offensive line kept holding and getting in penalties and making it 3rd and 15 and 3rd and 20, which is hard to come back and come out of. Okay? So it's not like Jalen Hurts played bad. The entire team played bad. The entire team wasn't living up to standards. And the defense gave up a touchdown late in that drive in the fourth quarter. So it's not like Jalen Hurts played bad. The entire team played bad. So you can't just stick that on the quarterback. Everybody played bad. If people dropping balls over the middle that's wide open, what can you do? What do you expect? If I throw the ball to my receiver and he drops the ball, what do you want from me? What do I need to do? Right? What do I need to do? Because this guy acts like Jalen Hurts is just a bum. He's never been a bum. He's been one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. Whether he want to admit that or not, it don't matter to me. He can live in delusion land all he wants. But the reality to it is he's been one of the top 5 quarterbacks. All right, this is what I want to know. Because what do we value in our quarterbacks? Do we value victories? Do we value statistics? Do we value clutchness? Like I need to know what do we want in our quarterbacks? Because John Elway, he would have a bad game 3 quarters. In the fourth quarter, he will come back and beat your team. He's considered a legend. So I'm just trying to figure out what do we value in our quarterbacks? What do we want to see out of them? Let's go to the next clip.
To the T. And quarterbacks don't have the luxury to play poorly in the first and second round and still advance to the conference championship. They don't. And Hurts played poorly against the Packers. He played poorly against the Rams, in which he went 3 and out. And who saved the day? Jalen.
We just went over that, him playing poorly against the Rams. We just debunked that lie. That's a flat out lie. I put the stats up, and that was a complete lie. Let's go to the next.
Here, exactly. And quarterbacks don't play on even playing field. So that's why I think when you mention wins as an argument, the Eagles defense shut down the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. There has not been a Josh Allen playoff game in which they shut down the Chiefs offense.
Yeah.
There's not been one. So like, I think that quarterbacks aren't playing on even playing fields. Some quarterbacks are asked to do more. And just because they lose doesn't mean they're worse or any less valuable. It's just different responsibilities. And Jalen Hurts for the last 2 years his responsibility on the Eagles has been don't fuck it up. That's all it's been. But it hasn't been lead us. It hasn't been carry the offense. It hasn't been be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. It's just been don't mess it up. Don't turn the ball over. We'll win because we have an elite roster.
That's important though. Like we look at a lot of quarterbacks. I love CJ Coleridge, but he just had a playoff game where he lost in the game. You know, we look at quarterbacks like Trevor Lawrence in the playoffs. Unfortunately, his one turnover came he had two, but that one turnover at the end of the game cost them the game. So, like, don't fuck it up, facts. But, as a quarterback, not fucking it up is hard. Because, you have opportunities to fuck it up. And,
All right, so these guys, they hate Jalen Hurts so much that they just say anything to try to diminish him and try to boost up these other quarterbacks that they love so much, like Josh Allen, who done nothing in the NFL, completely nothing. He's in the same boat with Dak Prescott. He's done nothing in the NFL. Lamar Jackson done nothing in the NFL, right? This is supposed to be Josh Allen year. Without Mahomes and without Lamar in the playoffs, he still can't get it done. Without the guy Joe Burrow, still can't get it done. And they won't admit that he haven't had a good run yet. All Jalen Hurts do is take his team to the playoffs and win playoff games. So he said that basically he's along for the ride, right? Who I don't understand. He put up 75 points in the two Super Bowls. 75 points combined in the two Super Bowls. He put up 35 and one and lost, and put up 40 in the other one and won. So, and he would have been MVP on both of those Super Bowls. So I'm trying to figure out how is he along for the ride if he's the best player on the team. I'm trying to figure out he was all pro. He had 3 Pro Bowls. Okay, so I'm just trying to somebody help me. They say Jalen Hurts had a bad year this year, but he was a Pro Bowl this year. He had his best statistical record this year for his passing. 25 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 3,200 yards, 8 rushing TDs. So can somebody help me understand that if this year was so bad for him and he made the Pro Bowl and had one of his best statistical years, I'm trying to figure out what type of status that they have for Jalen Hurts he must think he must get 500 touchdowns. I'm just trying to figure out. What do you mean this is a down year? What do you mean he's carried? Let's go to the next clip.
If you want a quarterback that will lead you to number 1 and 3 and outs in the NFL, then if you want a quarterback that will lead you to number 1 and 3 and outs in the NFL, then Jalen Hurts is your guy. If you want a quarterback to lead you to one of the lowest passing offenses in the NFL in terms of yards per game, then Jalen Hurts is your guy. If you want a quarterback to lead your offense to a lower drop back success rate than the Carolina Panthers led by Bryce Young, the Saints led by rookie Tyler Shuck, and the Arizona Cardinals led by Jacoby Brissett, a journeyman quarterback, then Jalen Hurts is your guy. Pro Bowl wide receivers, top 10 offensive line. Eagles fans complain that their offensive line in 2025 wasn't as good as 2024. Well, in 2024, they were historically great. That is one of the best offensive lines in the history of the NFL. In 2025, they were worse, but they were still a top 10 offensive line. In fact, they ranked 4th in pass block grade. If you want a quarterback that doesn't throw to the middle of the field with frequency, if you want a quarterback that can't dissect zone coverages consistently, then Jalen Hurts is your guy. The great team around him has made people blind to the traits of a quarterback that he just doesn't possess. What is his case to be amongst the top quarterbacks in the NFL? Because he's won with a great roster that 80% of starting quarterbacks would win with. That is not a valid argument.
All right, let me refute all of that. Okay, in 2022, right? 2022, when Jalen Hurts was running up for MVP, he should have got MVP of the league that year. Should have got MVP of the league that year. And everybody was saying that this roster that he got, same roster, anybody can win with this roster. Anybody can do this, right? Jalen Hurt got hurt. With I think 3 games left in the year. The 3 games we had left was the Cowboys, the Saints, and the Giants, right? We had Mark Sanchez as the backup quarterback, right? Mark Sanchez came in and replaced Jalen Hurts. I believe it was Mark Sanchez, if I'm not mistaken. Mark Sanchez went 0-2. He went 0-2 threw like 5 interceptions. With the same roster of the Eagles that Jalen Hurts had, he went 0-2. So I'm trying to figure out that if anybody can win with his roster, why hasn't it been done? This year, you know, the guy came in, the backup quarterback came in and lost to the Washington Redskins, Washington football team. So at the end of the day, you got to give Jalen Hurts his props. You got to give Jalen Hurts his props because some Eagles fans believe that Jonathan McNabb was better than Jalen Hurts. So okay, let's go to McNabb and Jalen Hurts career statistics. Right? You got McNabb on your right, Hurts on your left. Right? Jalen Hurts' career passing rate is 94. McNabb is 85. Completion record percentage. Jalen Hurts 64.4. McNabb is barely 59. He haven't reached 60% completion. He's at 59% completion. Right? Jalen Hurts passing yards 17,000, 18,000 borderline. McNabb 37,000. That's for his career. McNabb Hurts is only 5 seasons in. Touchdown to interception ratio. Hurts is 110 touchdowns, 45 interceptions. McNabb 235, 34 touchdowns, 117 interceptions. They basically the same. McNabb just had a lot more games to, play than Jalen Hurts. Yeah, I mean, so right now, Jalen Hurts is on a Hall of Fame trajectory for his career. Been to 2 Super Bowl MVP, All Pro, 3 Super Bowls under his belt. So he's on a Super Bowl trajectory for his career. So if you want to win, and he's the best quarterback in Eagles history, he's better than Randall Cunningham, better than McNabb, better than Vic. That's just the proof. That's just the facts. So let's go to the next clip.
I'm getting tired of the Jalen Hurts disrespect. Yes, he's not going to put up all the big time numbers and he's not going to come out and throw for 4,030 passing touchdowns every year. But you know what he does? He wins football games and he's selfless and he knows what it takes to win. He just wants a ring and he's got one. And I think he has an opportunity in Philadelphia to get more because if you look at the numbers, all he's done since he's become the starter is win 63 games, win 2 conference championships. He's gone to 2 Super Bowls. He's won 1 of them. He's got a Super Bowl MVP. He's got 173 total touchdowns in the regular season. And in the playoffs when it matters most, what has he done? 21 total touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He knows what it takes to win games. And I'm getting tired of the argument of people saying, oh, well, yeah, he's got a great roster around him. I don't know why people fault quarterbacks for that. It's not his job to build the roster. It's his job to go win with the roster that you're given. Right. He's gone to the playoffs every single year that he's been a starter, and he's been to 2 Super Bowls already.
Okay. That's one of the arguments against Jalen Hurts. He got a great roster. Name one Super Bowl team in the history of the NFL that don't have a great roster, that don't have all pros, that don't have Pro Bowlers, that don't have Hall of Famers. Joe Montana had all types of Pro Bowlers and Hall of Famers around him. Jerry Rice, John Taylor, Tom Rathman, all types of Hall of Famers. Ronnie Lott, Morton Hanks, like all types of Hall of Famers. The quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. He had Hall of Famers around him. Emmitt Smith. You know, he had all types of Charles Haley on defense. This all types of Hall of Famers. You know, and I just don't understand. Every Super Bowl team got Hall of Famers. Even the greatest show on earth, you had a quarterback coming off the grocery store. Before he was in the NFL, he was bagging up groceries. He came to the greatest show on turf, the Rams, and he was playing with Isaac Bruce, Isaac and Terry Holt, and Isaac Bruce, and the running back Marshall Faulk, Hall of Famers, and he won a Super Bowl. Nobody said that is surrounded with talent. Every Super Bowl team is surrounded with talent. That's just the nature of the business. But when it comes to Hurts, they only bring that up, but they don't bring that up with new. I never heard in the history of the NFL he's only good because the team around him is good. I never heard that. Only when it comes to Hurts because they want to take away his accolades. They want to take away what he did. Even though in the Super Bowl he was the best player on the field between Mahomes and both teams. He was the best player on the field. So I just wanted to destroy that little podcast real quick. I'm gonna go to this last clip and then I'll be signing off because we did enough.
Jalen Hurts just got defended by someone who had every reason to stay quiet. All this recent Hurts hate has stirred up a real hornet's nest, and now you got guys from everywhere chiming in. Even some taking shots like Tampa's Levante David, admitting Hurts was never a guy they worried about. Okay, yeah, if there's one team that can talk, it's probably Tampa. But then came the response nobody expected. And that's from former Eagles safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who stepped in and said Hurts has got 7 different systems he had to deal with and still was able to get back and win a Super Bowl, which is rare. And he also made it clear his bond with QB1 is unbreakable. Look, to me, CJ's response says a lot. This is a guy who was basically scapegoated on his way out of Philly, blamed for locker.
Welcome to Philly Psych Ward. Think of me as a doctor or a patient, whichever you prefer. Welcome to Philly Psych Ward. Think of me as a doctor or a patient, whichever you prefer.